Want to do full screen. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for agreeing to chat with me, like sight unseen, sort of. I
Thank you
really
for having
appreciate
me.
it.
Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, absolutely. You are the creative designer and the business mind behind Haveli, which is a relatively new brand, right? You started in January of 2020
That's right. Yes.
and right before the pandemic.
Yes. We started in a very different world, and our entire business life, or the life of the business, has certainly been textured and molded and shaped by the realities of the time we're in. But
Right.
in many cons, but some pros and silver linings and opportunities in the midst. So it's we're still here.
Good, good. Well, I wanted to back up just a little bit to talk about your journey, your own journey to where you are right now, because I'm sure some of the things that I read a little bit about I read some about your bio and your education and what are the things that inspire and motivate you. So would you like to talk about some of those things in your own words?
Sure. So where do I start? I'm born and raised Jamaican. That's where I'll start, end, and continue. I'm very proud to be Jamaican. And in throughout my education, before I left to go to Paris to study fashion business, I had no real intention until I was in high school. The last few years of high school, I began exploring my interest in fashion. My friend is a photographer, and we would work together. I'd style the shoots, he would edit and take the photos. I interned at the Jamaica Observer, the Style Observer, starting when I was 13 years old. And so that creative side was always part of me. It's something that I would pursue, but I didn't think it was going to be my career. I thought I would explore that and enjoy it, but I was going to end up working in policy. I wanted to study world politics or foreign relations. And fast forward a little bit. So I found this school, ESMOD, which married fashion. So the fashion industry with business. So it was a fashion business program. And I was really inspired by that, excited by that, because I thought this was an opportunity to put both sides of my brain together.
Yeah.
And I loved it. One thing that really stood out to me about the program was that there were these internships each year, and there were no classes. There was 3 months dedicated to purely working full-time in an internship. And that was also a major point of inspiration for me, because it was practical, and I love that aspect of it. And I recommend to any young creative or anyone out there, just it doesn't matter what industry you're in, getting hands-on experience is so important. So my first internship was at the Chloe boutique, mainly in sales and in retail. So, that retail grind. And it was so important to get that experience. When the program dictated that we had to get retail experience. And at the time I was like, no, but I want to work in marketing. I want to be on shoots. I want to do all of these things. But the school said, no, if you don't know how a store floor works, if you don't know how to understand how to cater to clients' needs in the moment, if you're not there in that moment of actually selling, you have no business in the office. You have no business anywhere else in the corporation, because this experience, this hands-on experience, is so valuable. And that's something I've taken with me for sure now, operating Haveli, and for all our team members, being in the store, having that experience, knowing what it's like to really, as I say, just be of service to the final customer is so important. My second internship, I went to Ghana. So I was in Accra, and I interned for Studio 189, which is a partner of the ITC Ethical Fashion Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my interest in ethical fashion, sustainable fashion really flourished. So when I entered SMOD in 2014, and at the time, sustainable fashion wasn't as much a part of the conversation. It was not what it is today. It was really just a few brands that were, passionate about it. And like, for example, I think really I can maybe only Stella McCartney at the time in terms of luxury fashion was associated with being sustainable as a brand and what that meant. So learning more and more about, for example, the Rana Plaza collapse, where in Bangladesh, where tragically many garment team members of the garment industry were injured and lost their lives because of the deplorable conditions that they were working in that plaza, but many other atrocities to the environment and to, as I said, team members who create the garments that we wear. That was starting to really become part of the news cycle and part of the industry conversation. So I wanted to learn more about ethical fashion. I saw what Studio 189 was doing, and I was so interested. I was inspired by it. I thought it was phenomenal. They matched the traditional techniques of Ghana, the batik, kente, and so on, and brought individuals to help train in pattern making. So they had pattern cutters and designers from Italy come in and do training sessions. They basically made it such that they were of that global standard and selling to boutiques in the United States, Europe, and so on, but really celebrating in an authentic way and investing in the communities that these techniques exactly originated in. And that inspired me, because we all can recognize sometimes some brands get inspired by some communities, and particularly communities of color, marginalized communities, but don't actually invest in those communities, don't actually, purchase the items or the craft from the source. So Studio 189 was a major source of inspiration for me, and interning there was really life-changing. And however, when I graduated, so when I finished at ESM, I still wasn't sure I was going to enter a career in fashion. I didn't think it was for me. I was kind of disheartened by the industry, to be honest. There were many features and aspects of it that I didn't love, and I wasn't sure I wanted to be part of it. And so I came back to Jamaica and I worked in finance. I worked at a financial group. I worked at Sagicor Group as an analyst. And I loved what I did there, which was basically to go through, I worked as an analyst in their strategy and innovation department. So my job was essentially to gather research, get information, to put proposals together for potential projects and innovation internally. So to make the operations within the company possibly more efficient or more, for lack of a better word, innovative. And then of course the products that would serve clients as well externally. And that was a way of,
yeah. My phone is telling me that this meeting is happening. Actually, on the sorry. Okay, I'm in it. Okay, I've gotten rid of that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So worked at Sagicor, had a great experience. At the same time, I did my master's in corporate finance. My plan was for my career was to apply to work for a multilateral. I wanted to get into policy creation and policy analysis for either IDB or World Bank or some one of those multilaterals. And when I finished my master's, an opportunity came up to go to India before really entering the workforce again after I graduated. And that's where Haveli was born. That's where the idea came, the inspiration, all of it really came to life. So I went to India just for holiday, just recreationally, met the artists.
Your first visit to India, you had never been before.
That's right. So it was my first visit, and I was in a very peaceful state. So before going, I was very anxious. I was terrified of what my future would look like. I felt like I was not living up to my potential. I felt very lost. Mm-hmm. And then in going to India and being with an incredible group of ladies and walking through, it was a very spiritual experience. And it all just hit me. It came together. The name of the brand, the logo, the ethos, what our DNA, our aesthetic, all of it really came to life. And then, of course, meeting the amazing artisans who are now part of the Haveli family.
Wow. So you just recapped something that seemed to have happened in a really short period of time. Is that accurate? That all these things sort of flowed one into the other and so on to sort of get you to where you are today? It seems like a kind of a seamless process of flow.
Now it does.
Now
Because
in
you can tell the
retrospect.
story, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
This story really started, I would say, when I was 13. So 13 years ago. It's a 13-year journey to where I am today in terms of exploring my interests and then having them be solidified. I think that for many creatives, they can relate to the fact that they have these passions, but maybe their environment or just what society may tell you that this is not really a career, this is a hobby, or this is something you do on the side, or and it's not just a matter of societal pressure. I did not think that, given the fact that I did well academically, I really, I know there are many terms to describe people who you can do the math test just as well as you do the art class, just as well as you do the history class. That was something that brought a lot of anxiety for me, because I wanted to be pushed in one direction. I was like, why can't I just be good at one thing, and that's my path and I follow it. And I remember before going to India, just praying and wanting purpose. Just if I remember thinking to myself, if I just nail it, if I just get that one thing, that one idea, or whatever it is that I'm supposed to do, I know I'll do it very well and I'll give it my all. But I just feel so lost and I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that means. So it seems linear. It seems like it was all, quick, but in the moment, there were times when I was not fulfilled at all, and I felt, as I said, just very lost, and it felt like very long stretches. But now looking back, maybe it was about 3-4 weeks at a time that I was lacking direction, or I was working or going to school or whatever it was at the time. For example, when I was finishing up my undergraduate studies, everyone else was applying for jobs and getting excited, and I froze. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where my life was going to take me. And what's one thing I've learned is that, one, it's all going to work out and it will be okay, and that every experience is for a reason, a very specific reason. When I was in college, I worked as a waitress in a bar. I worked in service, and aside from having the income, I wanted to learn French very quickly so that I could do my internships. And it was really difficult in terms of having people shout orders at me and trying to, not mess up. And sometimes people would get frustrated, rightfully so, because I didn't speak the language very well and it was very crowded. I had to multitask, learn how to work on a team. Like I said, working in retail, which is just it was grueling. I was in the flagship store on Avenue Montaigne, and it was really intense. During sales period, for example, being on your feet for 13 hours, and what that experience at the time, you're going through it and you're like, why am I doing this? This is so hard. But now I'm so grateful for every single experience. My experience at Sagicor, learning how to put presentations together and spreadsheets together and do research, and again, work in a corporate environment. All of those experiences, even if in the moment I'm not sure where it's headed, if now I can recognize and reflect on how important they all were to be here.
I think that's really fascinating because I do think that that is a wholly human experience, and everybody goes through that, and it depends on how much resistance we as individuals put in our own paths, as to how easily that whole process unfolds for us, that process of awareness around purpose. So yeah, I think that's an amazing example of it actually happening. And I love the fact that you said it's not linear. It's actually quite curvy. There are lots of twists and turns, but it will all work out. I truly believe that as well. So I wanted to go back a little bit and explore um, some of the things some of the experiences that you had. So specifically the retail experience. So I worked in distribution before, and I did trainings in retail stores, and I know that experience of catering to the customer, especially in a luxury environment, is all about service, and it is all about closing that sale, but doing it in a way that offers the customer a feeling of taking away a piece of something that's very, very special,
Mm.
right? And I wonder what you think about luxury and how it has evolved, and how that evolution has informed your brand.
Yeah, I love that question actually, because I've given quite a bit of thought to what luxury means. And my definition of luxury is authenticity and being comfortable and confident and proud of the skin you're in and who you are. And so that to me is the ultimate form of luxury, is when I feel my individual absolute best. And that's completely subjective, that's a very unique thing. And for Haveli, that's what we strive for, is to create the ultimate luxury of, and that confidence and comfort of being exactly who you are. So I think traditionally, at least from the first class I walked into, there was this idea of putting us that there is luxury is about creating another world. It's about creating this aspirational fantasy
Yes.
that through material acquisition you can be part of.
Mhm.
There is again that idea of us and them, and separation, and that it's something, as I say, that has to be aspirational. So traditionally, many of the images we would see, marketing images and messaging, did not represent majority of women, didn't represent me, maybe you, my sister, my aunt. I wasn't seeing us. I wasn't seeing and feeling that this message is for me and that this world is mine. That there's this very specific there are these very specific tools that are used through the marketing, through the messaging, and the products themselves, through the representation, through the sizing and how the product itself identifies who the client is and what luxury means. So in starting Haveli, as I said, I was very disheartened by the industry. And when I had the idea for Haveli, I decided I was going to just reimagine what luxury can mean, what luxury should look like and feel like and can be. And that's why we talk about honoring heritage through ethical production. So that authenticity, the luxury of understanding that this garment is handmade, it was hand printed, how much love and tradition is in this piece. The fact that it's for everyone, having an inclusive size range, that is luxury. It's luxurious to be comfortable, for the shapes to embrace our movement and who we are, for all the design details also to be practical, small things like 4 inches of elastic in the waistband, so that when we bend over, it's comfortable, where the flow of it, the pockets, the placement of different panels, things like that add to what I believe to be luxury. Because if I'm not comfortable, the material we choose, so we only use natural fibers, we use biodegradable materials, we use natural dye. All of this is again to emphasize comfort and breathability, and but also honoring the environment. That is again luxury to me, is when we're in harmony. We're in harmony with each other. We're in harmony with the environment. And I think about, and in harmony with the traditions and honoring the heritage of wherever we produce and the techniques, and paying homage to that in a very respectful way. And then also I think about when the purpose of Haveli is connection, to foster connection to the divinity within and around us. And I think about the potential of our world if each of us really tapped in and tuned into that divinity and felt like our highest selves, and that, you know, my highest selves, my highest self taps into yours, and the, you know, that energy burst that happens when we connect in that way. That's luxury to me. Feeling less than, feeling other, feeling uncomfortable, feeling that something is, I don't belong, that does not speak luxury to me. And I think that the industry is recognizing that. I think that there are many big players who are now recognizing that the industry has become far more democratized. So I'm very grateful for, and I say it all the time, that it really was divine timing when I started Haveli, despite the fact that we started it right before a pandemic. And I'm also just want to be very, so just to talk about the gratitude that I have for that timing, because I am able to, through Instagram, sell my clothing, show and showcase right beside those other big brands. As you're scrolling through, you'll see mine and you'll see theirs. You'll see I'm able to create content myself. You know, most of the images on my Instagram, I have a camera. Before that, it was my iPhone. And I ask my friends, again, who represent the beauty that surrounds me and the divinity around me. So I asked my gorgeous friends to come together of all shapes, colors, sizes, and expressions of beauty, expressions of the divine to come together. I'm able to do all of that without needing a big budget to be in traditional press, without needing to cater to the ideals and thoughts of what will sell and what won't sell in one of the larger retailers, because that's something that designers have had to, I think, balance and deal with. They're expressing their vision, but also making sure that they get that purchase order from the retailer, right? Because before, it wasn't, even up to 5 years ago, even up to 2-3 years ago, e-commerce just was not what it is today.
Yeah.
So getting your brand to the world and to that wider audience really came from your ability to work with retailers and get those purchase orders in. So for many reasons, these larger players, I think, are seeing what's working and how these smaller brands are coming, you know, expressing their authentic messaging and authentic ways of producing, ways of marketing. You know, it comes with issues such as greenwashing, which, you know,
It's greenwashing. I'm not familiar with that.
so there are brands who will use slogans, keywords, create beautiful videos to make it seem that they're becoming more sustainable. But when you really look into it, they haven't changed much. Yeah,
Right.
are they paying their team members and the creators of the clothing fairly? Are they creating a circular production model so that there is minimal waste? What materials are they using? Are they using biodegradable and natural fibers? What dyes are they? Toxic dyes, and is the water runoff from their dye plants causing health issues for neighboring communities and issues for, you know, crops and the ecosystem around the dye plants? So there's also I don't know what the exact term, but there's a similar issue for diversity. You know, these brands will use certain models to express diversity, but when you look in their boardrooms or when you look at the management, when you really look into it, are they hiring people of color? Are they hiring women? Are they hiring members of the LGBT community? I mean, what does their actual diversity look like in-house, not just a pretty billboard? You know, it's all of these factors that are coming in, and it's a step forward. At the very least, they're recognizing the importance, but then it's also, it can be difficult or dangerous, because then it becomes just about profiting on, once again, profiting
Yes.
from imaging,
The
the
image.
images, right?
Yeah.
And the work and the creativity of the people
Love
who
it.
they're not actually, again, they're not actually investing in the communities.
Mhm.
So the industry is changing. I think it's going to still take more time. I think that the more that, for example, I saw a video of the head of Instagram recently talking about how they're going to really focus on Instagram shop and shopping, and how they're going to invest more and place more focus there. And I think that's a major opportunity for small brands, because again, you can put yourself out there, show who you are. The market is more trusting of e-commerce and willing to place orders from all over the world. I've seen Instagram shops from Australia, India, Canada, all of these places, but I love the product. I want to support them. And then furthermore, the story. Is it female owned? Is it, Black owned? Is it LGBT, whatever it is, what's the story behind it? And I want to support the small business. I know I'm not alone in this, and I've seen it in the support and loyalty of Haveli as well, that our community, I don't call members of the community clients or customers or anything, our community who has invested in us and believes in us, they are our greatest advocates, and they know exactly what we're about. They're proud to share what we're about and talk about it, and support consistently. So I think that the industry is changing on what luxury means to each individual. I think is going to move more towards this idea of authenticity and genuine quality, because that's another thing. A lot of quote luxury brands, when you look in the product descriptions, when you
Yes.
really get into it and look at how the items are made and what they're made of, you have to ask yourself, well, is this genuine luxury? Is it just luxury because there's a specific name on it, or is there actually a lot of love and process and craft in the making of the item? So I think it's going to change for sure.
Yeah, there are just so many, there's so much going on in what you just said. Specifically, I think the definition of luxury is going back to what it was before in terms of craftsmanship, but it will be more accessible. It will not be as, you know, this elite thing that is not available to everyone. But this idea of mass market availability has flattened products in a way that makes them not unique, which to me is the antithesis of luxury. If you don't have a piece that is, for example, your pieces, I think that you've mentioned that no one piece is exactly the same, because these things are handmade. There's
Yeah,
somebody
they
that's
have it.
hand stamping the pattern that's on your shirt, and that person is a person. It's not a machine. And so you will not get the exact same thing. And to me, that is luxury. That's having that one of a one of a kind piece that is timeless, and that we can pass on, that is not disposable, that's not made in in places that are at, just horrible places for labor, just to get. And this is all, I guess, being spirited or driven by dollars. So let's talk about that, right? It isn't easy to make products in the way that you're describing, sustainable products. It's not cheap. Can you describe or talk more about what's involved as a creator of a brand that is trying to do business in this way, and the challenges that you face in order to do this?
That's a great question. So I just read a book called Conscious Capitalism. And one of the main points in the book is that profit maximization allows for impact maximization.
Mhm.
So this is still a business. This is a growing business. I believe so strongly in our mission and how we do what we do. So how we operate and how we produce. I do want to bring this to the world, and I do want to make it a very successful and viable and financially viable business as well. That's not something that is secondary. It's about allow when the financial health of the business will allow for our mission and our purpose, our genuine purpose to permeate. So it is not, it's definitely, sometimes I think when I'm going through and seeing like the different fabric options and what it's going to cost, and there is a balance there. So we don't compromise on the use of exclusively natural fibers, organic materials, small farmers, fibers from small farmers and so on. But I do also balance it with the fact that I do want to make sustainable fashion accessible. So these fibers and these fabrics, they are available, but they're often very inaccessible in terms of the price point, and something that that's something I'm conscious of. So I think through when I'm working out the collection plan. Definitely a challenge is making sure that when I think through all of the costs associated and making sure that the quality is communicated, so the storytelling, and again, in that book Conscious Capitalism, they speak about the fact that your marketing or your public relations, all of that is just a matter of storytelling. It's telling the truth about who you are as a business. So that's my approach to all forms of marketing and PR. It's explaining every single thing. This is block printed, 100% organic cotton. It's lined with organic cotton. It's all done by hand. You can see the detailing. And so in so doing, creating a fair representation and honest representation of the value of each item. And the fact that, for example, as you said, someone is hand printing this, but not only are they doing this, they've been doing this for 9 generations, and that's what this represents. And we don't just take a picture of it and go back and try to recreate it. It's making sure that we are investing in these communities so that they thrive as we thrive and we grow together. And projects, for example, in Jamaica as well, to build up a craft startup as well. So to answer your question, there are challenges in terms of making sure that we are always, our collection plan is representative of different price points as well. So, I always make sure that we have our cotton items, we have our silk items, we have our linen items, watching the balance of that and the flow. So, especially now, one of the, everyone's using this word pivot, but one of our pivots during this time has been to really focus more on cotton, which is our organic cotton, all naturally dyed, but less, it's less expensive than silk items, which are also more formal, and we haven't been going out. So, that it's thinking through the needs and really empathizing with our community and thinking about, okay, what do we want to wear now? What makes sense for our lifestyle? And how do we serve in that way to, bring out that divinity and that confidence and comfort, but in a way that is, accessible and serving. So, for example, the dress I'm wearing today, it's 100% cotton. I'm comfortable, has pockets, and I can sit in this meeting with you and feel really great. I can also, go back into the studio to design. I can run my errands, and it's functional in that sense. So that's I would say, in thinking through on the financial side, it's making sure that, one, we're always empathizing with our community and thinking through what would I want to wear? What would this specific, like I think through the faces and names and, of our community, and what would they wear here? Okay, how are they going to want to wear this? And so thinking through in that way and making sure then, of course, if that's part of the design process, then for lack of a better word, it's rewarded by the sales, because we're answering and we're filling a need and we're answering the community to our community. But then also making sure that the collection plan is balanced, and that we're producing in a way that allows for a comfortable margin, come what may, that everyone is compensated fairly on our team, every aspect. So something that I speak about quite often is the fact that If you are a creative, so say maybe you're a graphic designer or a photographer, whatever it is, I'm not going to try to haggle. I'm not going to try to, you set your
Right.
price and I respectfully say whether or not that's feasible at this time,
Mm-hmm.
So I just look at it and say, okay, I would love to do this. Okay, maybe for right now that's not going to be possible for us. And so I manage our expenses in that sense. So I really place a lot of emphasis on our product when it comes to reinvesting our profits and making sure our expenses still reap a return. So there has to be an ROI for every single expense. And if I can't see a direct line, especially now, because again, we've grown as a toddler business during a pandemic. So I think that's definitely shaped how I'm going to continue to run the business, very lean, very focused, and very I'm just going to use the word lean, not frugal, but lean in terms of if we're going to spend on this, then I need to see the direct line and how it's going to come back and how, again, we're serving our community best. So things, for example, like our content, I create a lot of it myself. I edit it, I take the photos. And quite frankly, I've found that a lot more of our engagement on social media and even response in the store itself when people come and show me photos of what they want to purchase, it's the content that's very relatable. That's literally my sister and I in the backyard taking a photo, as opposed to maybe some of the more professional shots we've done, which are gorgeous and amazing. But it's just interesting to see, as I said, the return on investment, not just thinking about, well, we should do this, we have to do this. And I think for a lot of young entrepreneurs, particularly creative entrepreneurs, there's a lot of pressure to have everything be perfect and create very professional, high production content, because we're in a highly competitive environment through social media. But I also think that your vision and your authenticity and your creativity also comes through and you're rewarded for that. So making sure that you don't compromise your ability to make that impact through profit maximization and reinvesting wisely. That's something that I've definitely taken with me from trying to operate, build, and grow a profitable business during this pandemic.
Yeah. I'm thinking that one of the videos that I saw on your Instagram that I thought was a simple thing, but it was brilliant because you just ran through a couple of the things in the store. You were just like taking things off of the rack and talking about all of the attributes of each piece and the story behind each piece. And that level of connection with your audience, it's like a virtual trunk show.
Yeah.
It's like and it was just what we're able to do now with the internet in terms of retail and connecting with or community. I'll use your word, which is, I think, more accurate to what we're trying to build, is remarkable. And in saying that, how do you manage the growth of your toddler brand, which is probably walking now and a little bit older, um with juxtaposed against what you just spoke about, which is like the glossy images? How are you waking up every day and deciding, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing because this serves my customer better? At some point, there is going to be somebody who wants to carry Haveli, perhaps in Neiman Marcus or, in Barney's or, wherever. But is that your vision for your brand? Is that your vision for your brand? I'll just leave it there.
Well, thank you for that. In terms of the video, I didn't realize. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. To answer your question, the answer is that I want our mission and our purpose and appreciation of the way that we honor heritage through ethical production to go as wide as it can, as far and wide, and reach as many people as possible. So yes, It's a short answer is yes. But as I said earlier, I think that our ability to really hone our image, hone our message, hone our production methods and efficiency and techniques and all of these things, so that when the time comes, and we are in the process actually of speaking to some retailers and going through that process. But what I love and appreciate so far is there has been just an appreciation and love of the brand itself and the items, no interest in changing us, no interest in altering who we are. So that's really important, no compromise there on our authenticity, because that's what has earned us the respect and the loyalty of our community, and I think will continue to. So it's definitely a balance, and I appreciate this question because it is something that I think about every day. When we were just starting up a year and a half ago, it was just about the day-to-day, trying to figure out the systems, and then it became really understanding and appreciating how we're going to do this and becoming more systematic. And so when we first started, I was speaking with our workshop manager in India, and I said, it was another early morning because of the time differences, of something else going wrong, of another delay and something else going wrong. And I was like, why do I feel like I'm always the last one to know about these things? Like, why does this keep happening, that there's something new every day? And he said with a big smile on his face, it's because you don't know what you're doing. I loved that he said that. I appreciated it so much because it hit me that I don't know what I'm doing. I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. Yeah. Come, forget all of this, start over. And I sat down with a legal pad and a pen, and I said, okay, take me through the process from the minute that pod goes into the ground to the moment it's reaped, all the way until it lands in Jamaica. I want you to walk me through every last detail of the process. And when I did that and had that big picture view of what it is we're doing and how many adjacencies and how many people are interacting with the brand and how we need to become more efficient. Okay, so that means if this is going to happen, then this needs to happen simultaneously, and then this happens. So designing those systems for scale, so preparing for what I call the Oprah moment. They talk about the Oprah curse. I don't use that word. I call it the Oprah moment, so that we are prepared for the moment when Oprah or Michelle Obama or whoever it is talks about Haveli and is wearing it, right? So that we're prepared for that. But thinking through, for example, balancing those, larger business development plans, strategies, design, all of that side, but then at the same time, balancing that with making sure I answer every single WhatsApp that comes through our website. That live chat is my WhatsApp. That's me. It's no fancy like call center behind the scenes. We do our alterations. We do complimentary alterations for our clients as well. I answer questions in terms of sizing and which color, and clients will even message me to ask about accessories and what they should wear with what. And it's obviously when we get to a certain scale, I personally won't be able to have that much input and communication and contact. I want to always maintain a certain level and pop in and out. Like one of my founder of Brother Valley's, Aurora James, I have a lot of respect for her. She talks about the fact that she still sends birthday text messages to a lot of her clients herself. She personally does that. And this is after what major success in her brand is carried in major retailers. I would be completely honored to be carried in the retailers you listed and others. I would be honored to for Haveli to have a space there and to be beside many of the brands that I admire very, very strongly and for many years. So the answer is that I'm cautious of the fact that when I describe our method or I describe my ideals of what the industry could be, should be, and maybe will be, it's not to say that I lack, I'm separating or distancing myself from the traditions I have, or the cultures or the industry on a whole. I just think that because I love this industry and I believe in this industry and I'm part of it, I want to see it evolve, and I want to literally, to follow the cliche, be the change. I want to show through who we are, and the community of other sustainable brands and other female-owned brands and small brands and brands based in developing countries and developing economies, that we have a place here as well, and we have a voice, and we are answering a growing need within the market. So I don't know where this question started, but basically, yes. Yes, if a major retailer, big retailers, very established and esteemed retailers reach out to us, it would be an absolute honor, and I would want to definitely share Haveli as widely as we can.
Awesome. That's a great answer to the question, and a pretty astute one. I mean, being a part of the change means also being in it, right? You have to participate somehow. You can't be separate from the actual industry. You have to be in it in order to bring about that change. But you'll be able to do that on your own terms. So I wanted to talk about the element of spirituality that is so one of the cornerstones, I think, of the brand based on what you've said and what I've read. Can you talk about your own spiritual journey and how that informs the brand and what you want to imbue with the products?
So when the idea really came to me to start Haveli, the name and the logo, I'll get into the logo specifically, or the tiger, and why I chose it. It was when I was in India and went through that process of it, just that spiritual journey of taking layers away and becoming very open. There was an exposure to my most vulnerable self that I had not experienced before. When we went to a temple, the rat temple, where literal rats are all over this temple, and these rats are honored because they're representative of a representation of a god through rat form. So we left that temple, and I had a very strong spiritual experience. And one of the ladies on the trip, she looked at me, she goes, "You look slapped. You look like someone just slapped you in the face." And wow. I didn't even realize but I felt that kind of vulnerability, that sense of just being open and vulnerable. And I could cry at any moment. Have you ever experienced when you're very sensitive?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. It's like being like if you do yoga, it's like after a practice, you just feel cracked open.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the last day of the trip, or second to last day of the trip, we were in Narlai, which is a village up in the north of India, in Rajasthan. And it was the first day of Navratri, which is a 9-day celebration of the goddess Durga. Mind you, I had no idea any of this was going on. I did not know. I was just on this trip, following the itinerary, just looking at the sites, doing my, praying and going through the motions, really. But we climbed up this large granite structure. So it almost looked like a mountain. So we climbed at sunrise and set our intentions. And again, it was that moment of just being very intentional about what it is you want. And throughout the trip, I kept this mantra. I'm praying for purpose, prosperity, peace, and patience. And that's what I wanted. And I wanted that. I wanted to manifest it. I wanted to attract it. As I said, I felt I was lost. I did not know what I was doing with my career. I did not know what I was doing with my life. I was not happy. And I experienced on that day what they call Shakti. So the goddess energy coming through me. I was literally shaking. It was scary at first until, people explained to me, relax, it's okay. It's Shakti.
Mhm.
A member of the village, he just kept saying goddess, goddess. And I was like, what do you mean? What is going on? I did some more research, of course, and I came down the hill and could understand it, but I had such a moment of clarity. It was really sharp, and I haven't stopped ever since, in the sense of procrastination or self-doubt or any of those things, because it told me in that moment, this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and you need to have faith in it. And so whenever I become overwhelmed, whenever I feel that we are not moving, not growing fast enough, not all of those thoughts come in from time to time. Whenever we face a major setback. I mean, this is a whole other conversation, and I try
Mhm.
not to dwell on it, but because I've learned so many lessons, but not to minimize the very real challenges that we've faced as a business, and that the world has faced, small businesses globally have faced, and just the human experience, how seismic the shift and change has been, and impact of the pandemic. So I don't minimize it, but at the same time, it's when we face those challenges, and there have been times when I'm on the floor looking at the fan, just watching the fan spin, and I'm thinking, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. How
Mhm.
are we going to do this? What's next? There have been quite a few times when that's happened, and I thought that we would be it was going to be the end. I've wanted to quit. I've wanted to pack up and leave and run away from it. But that moment, I go back to that moment and I say, no, you've been told this is what you're doing. You have everything you need inside you to face this. You can accomplish it. You can conquer it. It's definitely a spiritual experience. I've leaned on my faith and my spirituality with every challenge, with every moment. And I think that entrepreneurship can be quite lonely. I think, and I particularly, if you don't have a business partner. So I operate and run the business myself. I don't have anyone in really the day-to-day making those decisions with me. I have great moral support. I have great friends. I have great family. But you know what I mean by, just when I make this decision is my own. I
It's
have to
all
take
you.
responsibility and accountability for it. And there are people who are impacted by this decision. There are people whose livelihoods are, impacted by my decisions and what I do or don't do, or if I don't make that effort. Sometimes it's really relentless as well. I think a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to the fact that there's no real downtime.
Mm.
There are no vacations really, even if you try. I've taken I can't think of like a full 24-hour day that I've taken off, completely off, disconnected, nothing. I mean, even Christmas Day, I was helping members of our community with the digital gift cards, Boxing Day, helping with exchanges and for people to find outfits. Like, there's always something. There's always a shipment coming in. There's always a question to be answered, a decision to be made. So having that strength of faith is very, very important to me, and that practice and ability to always get recentered and ground myself. And it's a practice that, again, is unique to me. It's something I've developed to see what works for me. There's no real structure to it. There's no name for it. It's just this is what I believe, and this is what works for me and what helps me as I go along my journey.
So, are these practices, just for those who may be watching, are these practices that are just born out of your faith, or are there things that you're doing, for example, on a daily basis that ground you? Is it your family? What are some of these things that if you would be comfortable sharing that with us?
Oh, yeah, sure. So in a very practical sense, before I open my eyes, the moment I'm aware that I'm awake every morning, that I'm grateful. It's like I just think through all the things I'm grateful for, and I say them in my mind. You know, wow, look at the beauty outside. I'm grateful for this bed I'm in. I am grateful for my family. I'm grateful for the health of my family. I'm grateful for the health of my team. I'm grateful for all the opportunities coming my way. I'm grateful for the, you know, and sometimes I'm not alone in this. A lot of people are grateful for or express gratitude for things that haven't even come. You know, they talk about things that don't really even may not have existed. So I talk about successes and accomplishments of Haveli, and
very powerful also.
Yeah. And so I want to be to anyone watching, it's not that I don't want to paint this idea that, you know, Haveli has not faced major setbacks or challenges, or that, you know, we are still a very much small, tiny business, you know, making our way and on our journey, learning every day, making mistakes, and nowhere near, as I said, the impact that I really want to make in this world. But at the same time expressing gratitude for all of the learning opportunities. And then I can sense when I'm just not centered, when I'm not balanced, when I'm lacking the ability to make decisions clearly, or maybe when I'm just getting more irritable than normal, you know, by small things. And I will take a moment. So when I came back from India, I set up a little altar in my bedroom, and I have an image of the goddess Durga, who her mount is the tiger, and the tiger is our logo. So that's the representation there. It's all in homage to the goddess Durga, and appreciation for the clarity that I believe she gave me. And so I do find it very grounding to look at the representation, so literally the image of the goddess Durga. I look into her eyes, and I will say a mantra. So whether it's for prosperity, for peace, for patience, whatever it is that I think I need that day, that I'm trying to attract, I will light a candle. When I was in India, I learned the importance of, or the ability for fire to, you know, kind of call the energy of the gods and goddesses. Likewise, a bell. So when you walk into the temples, there's usually a bell that you ring, and it's literally that sound of the bell that calls the energy of the goddess. And what was interesting is that many of these practices transcend religions. So it's not just in Hindu temples you'll see that in the Catholic Church. They'll burn the incense, ring, you know, a bell, and light a candle. In Judaism as well, that lighting of the candle, there are many parallels. So, you know, these practices I just have tried and seen what works for me. And like I said, there's no name to it. It's just, I will light my candle, ring the bell, and just sit, eyes locked with the representation of the goddess, and call that energy for what I need to do next. Beside that, I do have I have a very strong relationship with my family, and which I'm very grateful for as well. They're a major support system for me. I bounce ideas off of them. I, you know, think things through. Sometimes I'll just rant. I'll say, okay, this happened today, and blah, 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 and they just
Download.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll hold space.
Yes.
You know, sometimes I'm like, I'm not asking you to have the answer. I'm not asking you, you know, to you don't even have to respond. Can you just hold space for what's happening right now? And that support is major. I also have incredible friends. So a few months ago, a fellow entrepreneur, she has an amazing brand, she came into the store, and we were relating on, you know, just the experience, entrepreneurship, and as I said, the loneliness or the challenges, and how exhausted you become, and how your energy can be depleted, and sometimes you just have to laugh at how ridiculous some of the problems are, things like that. And she asked me, well, how have your friends been? And I said, they're amazing. My friends are incredibly supportive. They all were at the opening. They repost everything. They're amazing. And she was, yes, but how do they feel about the fact that you're never really around, or you aren't around as much? And I thought about it. And what was interesting is for me, my friends are, many of them are medical doctors,
Mhm.
or they're also entrepreneurs, or they're in professions that they're very passionate about and demand a lot from them as well. So there's just this understanding that we're there for each other, we love each other, but if we go months without speaking, we're not, we're not holding each other up for it. It's fine. There's no space. There's absolutely no jealous energy or resentment or anything negative. Like, we are just there for each other in such a real way that certainly is a big part of my foundation. So my friends and my family, and not just the friends and not just the family I was born into and the friends that I've had since high school and before, but through the experience of starting Haveli. And because we're so purpose driven and purpose based and mission based, like you can't miss it. You can't walk into Haveli, buy a piece of clothing and just leave it at that. You really understand the full purpose of what we're all about, or what we're all about. And so through that, I've made really incredible friends who have been attracted to the mission and who share that mission and who share that purpose and that feeling. And so in so doing, they also create a big part of my support system. And I when I think through some of the challenges, especially just the realities of trying to start, operate, and grow a business on a global scale in a developing economy, and some of the inefficiencies and setbacks and challenges that can come with. It's not easy across the board. And it's not an excuse or anything like that, but there are some unique challenges that we face that other, maybe people in other entrepreneurs in other economies don't face, or don't face as frequently. So I think that those challenges, I balance that all the time with when I'm in the store and I see our community and the support they have for us, and that they're cheering us on in that way, and the gratitude that comes from that. I would say that that's the key, the focus of my spirituality is, the cornerstone is definitely gratitude, and making sure that I'm vibrating and I am amplifying my divine energy at the highest level, so that it can attract that in others, and that it can be absorbed. I feel a sense of responsibility to do that, so that my light shines and helps light for others, and we all benefit, and the world, the compassion of the world is amplified in so doing as well.
Wow, that's really powerful, Mina. And you're actually living your brand. I mean, that's what I hear. Your life is your brand, which is pretty amazing. Um, I wanted to ask about, you started the conversation with talking about being Jamaican and you know, doing business. You just spoke about doing business in Jamaica. Can you expand a little bit on why it's important for you to be there in Jamaica right now running your business?
It's such an amazing sense of pride. It's who I am. So that's how I started, and it's really just, this is home for me. This is there's an incredible energy here. I live in Kingston, and there's a reason why creatives from all over the world, not just in music, but in fashion, designers, architects, they're creatives from all over the world who choose to come to Jamaica to get inspired. There is a very unique and special energy here, and I feel a very strong sense of, I feel a calling. I feel called to help our country reach its potential. I see, I think that there have been moments in our history and opportunities lost, but I do think that there are so many opportunities for young business people, creatives. My sister is a doctor. She's in the hospitals day to day serving. Everyone has their own unique way of serving. And it's something, again, part of my belief is that whatever your passion is, whatever it is, that energy in you that is ignited by what you're doing and when you're working in purpose, that's how you're uniquely called to serve in this world. And so I want to do that through Haveli, through our business, to help build and maximize our potential. And so there's so many ways or so many roles within a fashion business, and we have so many entrepreneurial, creative people in Jamaica. That's really our spirit. We have that special something you can't put a name to, that I really want to, through our business, hone and celebrate. So that's definitely part of the passion of being based here in Jamaica, and also just the fulfillment. I feel so proud and fulfilled every day when I interact with our team. When I interact with our community, when I interact with anyone who is part of who's a stakeholder in the Haveli universe, and I interact with them, and these are energetic, creative, brilliant, passionate Jamaicans, and it just really is fulfilling. And I want to continue to do so as we continue to hire and grow. So, that's the pride, being based here and able to grow here and reach the world
From
with our
Jamaica.
name from Jamaica. Yeah. And that's why even including Kingston, so being Haveli Kingston, was really important for me to represent.
Yeah, I get that. So I have a series of fun questions for you.
Okay, they've all been fun, so.
Okay, good. Good. I'm glad that you found them fun and not so heavy or heady. Okay, so I think you already answered my first one, which is those practices. I like to call them non-negotiables, things that we do in our lives that are not negotiable, that help us to show up in every space. And you already spoke about gratitude and the things that you did every morning. I know that you're an avid reader. So do you have, what are your, what are one or two books that you are always reaching for from your bookshelf and looking at again and again and again?
That's a good question. Recently, I've been reading a lot of business books. That's been, kind of the focus. What books do I go back to? Actually, let me think. I'm gonna give it some thought. So my favorite is a strong word. How do you say favorite? But really a book that changed the game for me.
Yeah.
One, just from the artistry and the craft of it, was White Teeth by Zadie Smith. I think that is, in terms of a work of fiction, it's phenomenal. I love White Teeth. That's a great one. In terms of changing my perspectives, I read Just Kids by Patti Smith when I was in high school. And I remember reading it and just thinking about how alternative her thinking was, that she thought so differently and expressed herself so differently, and everyone had to just kind of deal with it. She was just being who she was, and come what may, she was living her authenticity, which was really, for someone, I think I was like 16 at the time, and I read this and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. This is interesting. I think it's inspired me for sure, because I think that's something that is important when we talk about, this slogan is set off on representation matters.
Yeah.
And it's so important, I think, for everyone, but as a young woman, to see that there are so many ways to woman. There's so many ways to be. And that so long as, of course, you're not intentionally hurting anyone or being inconsiderate, being who you are, setting your boundaries, expressing yourself, designing your life as you want it to be, whatever that means. I have never fit into any kind of box. If all of those surveys, all of those demographic things, all there's never ever a box for me. And so I've accepted that about my life and who I am, and I appreciate it so much. And I think that there's a distinct reason for it as well. So I advocate for the others. I advocate for, although I'm not to this not to be ignorant to the fact that I do in many societal norms fit in, in that sense. I'm not completely marginalized, but yeah, I don't want to disrespect the experiences of those who are truly systematically held back and marginalized in this world, because there's a lot that needs to be done to change that. But what I'm trying to say is that designing your life as you want, and being who you are unapologetically and authentically, and in so doing, encouraging others to do the same and attracting those, through, I've seen that definitely through Haveli. I have an uncle who's very passionate about photography, and he's in banking. He's a banker, he's a corporate guy, but on the weekends I'm like, can we do a shoot? And he, is able to express himself in this, through this hobby, but he's able to do it in that way. And, so many other people who, our carpenter who helped do all the wood, who did all the woodwork in our store. I sent him a picture of the doorways in India, and I was like, I think he can do something like this. And he took on the challenge, and he was like, I've never done anything like this. I've unlocked a new, skill set, and he was able to show off his creativity and artistry in a different way. So that's really inspired me to constantly just be who I am, do what I want, and there's a reason for it, because I think that vibration attracts others to do the same. So I'd say those two. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah, there's so many books. The book thing is, I'm a book addict. Like it's just insane. I could just keep ordering them. I have to take some time to actually read some of them now. But so okay. What fact about yourself most surprises others to learn?
Most surprises. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, which I think a lot of people say, but I'm quite introverted. I really am. Although I can be personable and interact with others, and I enjoy it a lot, but I'm quite, introverted and quite shy. Actually, I'm very reserved naturally. But also, what would surprise people to know about me? Yeah, I guess that's one. I always say that I don't know why. I'm not sure. I have to tap into maybe what I'm projecting or communicating, but I'm a real nerd, like in the sense of a nerd, and I'm very kind of type A personality, in the sense of I like to be organized and all that. I'm not very cool. If that, like that sense of being cool. I'm not really cool. I'm really goofy. I'm very that, at least that my family and my really close friends, they think, they see it that way. So it's always funny when people meet me and they're like, oh, you're just a dork. And it's like, yeah, I don't know why they think differently. But, and then I guess the last thing is, if I could do anything, pursue a profession that isn't my own, I wish I could be a stand-up comedian.
No, you're kidding. No, that's definitely surprising. Do you have material?
No, I'm not funny. No, I'm not funny at all. But I just have so much respect for stand-up comedy and comedians. I think they're so brilliant. I could spend hours, like, that's a passion for me, is to watch comedians. And fortunately on Netflix, there's so much content.
Yeah.
In stand-up comedy, but I wish, like, I know the techniques, I know the names of them, I know, like, oh, they just did a callback, oh, they just did, but I'm not funny at all. I would never be able to do it, but I wish I could. Like, maybe in my next life, I
was gonna say, you never know, 10, who knows, years from now, you might be doing your own stand-up. Who knows?
Yeah.
That is pretty surprising.
There you go. Maybe I should have led with that one.
No, yeah, ending with that one is good. Final question on like this kind of lightning round is, Um, who would you most like to share a meal with and why? Could be somebody who's still living or alive or not no longer with us. Anyone that has ever existed.
Anyone who's ever existed. Hmm. Actually, well, there's so much to gain from so many people, but I'd actually say probably, oh, this is actually tough. Anyone who's ever existed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna go with what my gut is telling me for some reason. I really would love to sit down and speak to Zadie Smith. I
Oh,
really, yeah. I've read a lot of her writing
yeah.
and I've watched almost all of her interviews. Um, but I'd love to. She has a unique way of thinking and very practical way of thinking,
Mhm.
no nonsense that I really appreciate. I'll throw in another one just because she's my virtual mentor for business. Sarah Blakely, who is the inventor of Spanx. She,
Oh,
yeah, she still owns 100% or if not 100 majority of her company,
mhm.
and she has built and grown it through that authenticity and brought it to the world without compromise of her mission and her authentic voice. And yeah, she's just a ridiculously savvy
Mhm.
businesswoman who takes it all in stride and is what I like about her approach is she always talks about she has a no nonsense, no fluff approach either. She doesn't speak. She's that bootstrapping kind of entrepreneur
Right.
that I aspire that I align with. That's my style. Is don't spend more than you've made, and that building, that growing organically and growing in pace and scaling in a manageable way, and but at the same time having very global, lofty um, ideals and vision for the company. She's built a billion-dollar company. So, but with great spirit
Mhm.
and heart and an ability to give back that I really admire. So I'd love to sit down with those two women for sure.
Awesome. Those are great, great and different, very different examples of women and areas or milieus. So, how can people contact you? How can people order? What is happening with Haveli in the coming weeks, and what can we expect?
Yeah. So thanks for asking that. So
Yeah.
you can visit our Instagram at Haveli. So it's Haveli. Our website is myhaveli.com. You can place your orders through there. And you can interact with us as well through our live chat on the website, or give us a call. You can visit us if you're in Jamaica at 10A West Kings House Road, which is where our boutique is. And what's next? We just launched our more masculine line. So it is a line that is for everybody. It's really, I mean, so many men have come into the store and said, "What about us?" And
Really?
I thought more about, well, if inclusivity is our mission, we really have to be inclusive to all forms. So that's a part of my design mission and focus right now is our more masculine line and celebrating that the divine masculine and the balance between the divine masculine and divine feminine that is within all of us. So that and just building two forms of diversification is the focus. One in terms of our product line. So I really do want to see the purpose of Haveli and what we're all about embodied in more products that we interact with on a day-to-day. So the ideal and the goal, not just in the coming weeks, but years to come, is really to grow in our product line and how we, as I said, embody our mission with the pieces we interact with, and then also growing geographically and reaching more people.
I can totally see Haveli home. Yeah, I can totally see that happening. could do like a whole house with
Yeah.
the aesthetic. Yeah, furnishings and everything else. So thank you so much for joining me today. This has been just a wonderful, wonderful conversation, so inspiring. And I think when I reflect on this conversation, all I can think is future. Like this is the future of fashion, and it, as somebody who's worked in luxury, it makes my heart really warm to know that this is what is now possible. So I wish you the very, very best, and thank you so much for joining me. And I'll be on that Haveli site very soon ordering some stuff.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for reaching out and having me. This conversation was really filling. I really, really enjoyed it, and I appreciate you creating this space to have it. So I really, and the questions you asked, everything, it was really, really, I appreciate meeting you and getting to know you, and having this conversation, and for your support and kindness. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome. It was my pleasure. So I'm going to stop recording.